the new normal, and normal is the new reality, really. We would like to thank our partners, Bill Talbert, President and CEO of the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Dean Michael Chang, Chaplain School of Hospitality and Tourism Management, and their amazing teams for this wonderful partnership together. We are also working with the GMCBB in the development of our Hospitality Industry Management Guidelines Pledge. And this is the first of many discussions. We have about 8, just talking about 8 different seminars to get our hotels open. We're really looking forward to that. And I also want to thank Fahima Garcon, my marketing and events manager, and Monica Walker, who handles membership sales. And I want to just tell you, I miss seeing everybody. It's good to have, this is like amazing because we get to see each other. I wake up the next morning, I'm like, I feel like I was with these guys, because it's so nice to have this wonderful technology. So at this time, I'd like to introduce our moderator. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Nancy Scanlon, Professor, FIU Chaplain School of Hospitality and Tourism. And Nancy has also been our Sustainable Hospitality Council Chair, many years, right? I think it's been for many years. And thank you, Nancy. And our fabulous panelists, we have Mutlu Kushuk, Managing Director, Lowe's Miami Beach, and he's also on our Executive Board of Directors. Thank you, Mutlu, for joining us. And Susanna Fernandez, HR Director of Lowe's Miami Beach. We appreciate, we know that the world of the HR directors, as well as everybody else in our hotels, are very, very busy right now. So we appreciate it. And we're anxious to get the employees back to work. Simone Surpresi, Vice President, SBA, and also Board Director of our association. Welcome, Simone. Thank you. Thank you also. And Pred Baskets, Director of Engineering, now at Ocean Reef Club. Pred just started this week, and many of you know Pred, as he's been very, very influential on our Sustainable Hospitality Council as Director of Engineering. He recently left his last job here at Nobu Eden Rock, and now is working with our dear friend, Alex Tonorelli, who many of you know, at Ocean Reef Club. So congratulations, Fred. And not last, but certainly not least, the woman that I probably talk to more than anyone else, even any man right now, including my family, Heather Shaw, Assistant Director of Tourism and Cultural Department, City of Miami Beach. Heather has been so instrumental, so helpful, 24 hours a day, working with us in our hotels, and really, your patience is a virtue, Heather. I commend you for all that you do. Every time we talk, you have a great smile and a great sense of humor, and I know it's very challenging, but we're very delighted to have you with us. So now, Nancy, I'm ready. Is everybody ready?
And before I start, regarding questions, please use the Q&A box, not the chat box, to submit your questions, and we'll do that at the end of our conversation. So let's begin with Heather, okay? And Heather, would you share with us how your role has evolved since COVID-19 virus and your responsibilities toward opening hotels in Miami Beach?
Everyone. As Wendy said, I'm the Assistant Director for Tourism and Culture for the City of Miami Beach. And with the response to COVID-19, I partner with all of you, but as Wendy mentioned, more so with Wendy, and we have business groups, and my primary responsibility is to be the liaison from the City of Miami Beach to all of the hotels and short-term rentals. My job is to make sure that all the hotels are up to date on the new orders that are coming down from the government, to serve as the ombudsman, to answer any questions or concerns and try to address them. And if I see a trend of concerns, to try to put together groups to come up with the solutions for that. With COVID, it's been, as with all of us, I'm sure here, is a notion, as my mother would say, because each day is something new. We're growing and learning, and it is a struggle every day as we all are trying to make the best of the situation and protect our assets, our people, and do what's best for the community. So my job is to be that person to help where I can, and simultaneously try to work on a recovery plan that is helpful for the employees, for the hotels, to make sure that the city knows the resources that the hotels will need to recover, to look at best practices and make sure that whatever plan we're doing or whatever information the hotels know, that they know what their colleagues and competition and what are the trends, not just locally or nationally, but internationally. And also to work with the brands and those who have other resources that we can just leverage. So in the end, my job is to ensure that the hotel industry, as one of my responsibilities, stays the course, and that we can stay as healthy as we can, that we can keep information going to the employees so they're calm and understand what's going on, and that we adjust and are agile each day to respond to this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. This question is really for everyone, but Simone, maybe you take it and kick off with it. What is the new norm for hospitality in Miami and in Miami Beach?
Yeah, it's a good question, Nancy. And I think that's what keeps us all awake at night. Well, the new norm is, the fact is that definitely there's a significant increase in sensibility about cleanliness and disinfection. I mean, the nature of our business is we're providing beds and people where people live and so forth. So there is now basically new needs and new expectations coming along. And with that, we have to adapt and adjust our services. And that's kind of why we're here in a webinar to talk about what does that mean. And clearly, the most obvious one is the cleanliness, and disinfection. So what changes do we take there? Of course, as well, the PPE aspect for employees and guests equally. But I would like to go a bit more on the fundamental level, where we in the hospitality industry, it's all about personalizing service. And personalizing service, especially, well, in the Western world, for example, means shaking hands, greeting somebody, a guest that comes in, or our employees, things that we are just no longer can do. And so to understand that what that shift is, and adapt our hotels to what the new needs are and the new expectations. So personalizing service, shaking hands is one of the things, of course. A good smile is always beautiful to see from a front desk agent when they check somebody in with a face mask. That is not possible anymore, facial expression. So basically taking in consideration what is new, what shifted, adapting to it, and implementing, of course, new standards in regards to the cleanliness and this.
Mutlu, would you like to join in now?
Sure, yeah. First of all, thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Wendy, for putting the seminar and webinar together. We appreciate it. You know, I agree with Simon. There's a couple of things that I want to add. At the beginning of this, we had our own predictions, and it turned out that the majority of the predictions that we had, they were inaccurate. So we're learning. We continue learning. Every day there is new information that comes out, but there seems to be two topics that there's a consensus on, and that's social distancing and enhanced cleaning and sanitation. Those things are here to stay. Until we have vaccination readily available, social distancing and enhanced sanitation is gonna be with us, and we have to adapt to it. And this is not just us, but every business, every individual, our hotel, our city, we all have to adapt to it. And at the Lowe's hotels, we are looking at all of our standards. We're going department by department, looking at all the standards to see how we can encourage and how we can enforce social distancing and how we can enhance our sanitation processes and guidelines. We all need to understand it's not a matter of risk elimination, it's risk management at this point.
Suzanne, would you like to jump in on this?
Well, this is
What
the new
do you see
norm.
from perspective?
So this is the new norm. And I was just talking to Mutlu about as we bring people back, it's almost how we're going to have to start shifting our traditional forms. We have a policy that's been in place for 30 years, 10-5, engage and delight. And so the new norm is talking through that, and me being in the building for 22 years, everybody comes and hugs me and kisses me, right? So the new norm is, how are we retraining, to Simon's point and Mutlu's point, our team members from that warm welcome, which we embrace our guests. You know, they're such repeat guests here. So it's really forming and norming and understanding what we're coming back to and how we are managing this process for our team members, very empathetically, who are desperate to come back, but are wondering, what are we doing? You know, and part of our new norm also is dual and triple and quadruple different jobs, right? Wendy said, oh, it looks like you've got wine bottles behind you. No, those are the security. We're running security shifts, right? We're doing what it takes to get this building, keep it safe and backing up and running for our team members and our guests, and bringing hospitality back to some sort of new normal.
Oh, good. Fred, would you like to just voice in on that?
Everybody, and echo everybody, where we don't know exactly all the measures we have to do, and we are still waiting for the guidelines. However, in the operations of the hotels and restaurants, I would imagine, operation teams, especially housekeeping, my housekeeping colleagues, but us engineers as well, we're there. We're in the buildings, we're in the properties. So we have to maximize this time where the guests are still not here. And while we're waiting to see what's going to happen and how we're going to go about it, to prepare properties. So we know that we need to clean, sanitize, pressure wash, and get properties ready. So unfortunately, there are already all kinds of companies and products out there. They're selling new disinfectants and stuff. So we're all trying to get the best products and utilize them and get properties ready the best we know now, while we're waiting for some more efficient guidelines. So that's what the engineers are doing right now. We are in the restaurants, we are in the kitchens, we're in the hotel rooms, doing what we can do right now in the preparations, and we are ready to do whatever else is going to be necessary to be.
Well, that lets me lead in back into Mutlu, if I could. And then, so Mutlu, what does your checklist look like for 1 to 2 weeks prior to opening?
It looks long. It's extensive. It's I was looking at it. We created a new checklist. You can call it a checklist or a critical path. It's 350 different items with some sub items within those items. So it's a very long list. I feel that we are in some ways lucky. Most GMs and most Miami hotels, they have had some experience with suspension of services, closure, however you want to call it, and reopenings, because we have experienced that with hurricanes. So we all have hurricane manuals and guidelines that we have seen and we update on a regular basis. However, this time is different, because this time we are not suspending our services for a half a day, couple days. It's, as you know, it's been a very long time. If you ask me, it's way too long. But and the fact of the matter is, the critical path that we have in place, we have items that we have to start looking at, probably around 7 to 10 days out. We have each person responsible for these items. We have timelines created for them. I'll pick a couple examples here. For example, for our IT department, when they come back, and we're gonna have them back probably about 7 days before we actually open, they need to come back and they need to make sure that all IT systems are activated. As you know, when we suspend our services, we deactivated most of our IT-related services. For example, OpenTable. Everybody uses OpenTable. You're aware of it. Micro systems for food and beverage, hot sauce for rooms division and communication throughout the property. So they're all deactivated, and we need to get them back. We need to call the vendors, and we need to let them know that we are lifting the suspension, we are reopening, and we need to be ready for those. But it's a long and extensive list, Nancy.
Simone, then can you you have hotels all over the world, but let's address the progress in Miami. Do you see a comparison between the city of Miami and Miami Beach? And how is Miami Beach doing in comparison to the city of Miami in terms of planning for opening and
Right. I mean, so let's dissect it real quick between Miami and Miami Beach. So we have SB has 6 properties here in Miami, which 3 of them are at the beach and 3 of them are on the mainland. As of now, during the closure, we have been lucky to actually support essential lodging with one of our hotels in Miami, city of Miami. The SLS Brickell is actually currently still open and functions as essential lodging. So, so that was an opportunity, first of all, to help the first aid personnel, and which that opportunity did not really present itself at the beach. Now, moving forward, speaking about post closure with the opening, the way I see it is, we know history taught us that the leisure business will probably be the business that bounces back the quickest. And the leisure business, we are at the beach here a little bit more privy to get the leisure business than the city of Miami. And also taking in consideration the time of the year that we are currently in. So heading into the summer, which usually the segmentation such as business travel, such as group, which we talked a little bit before already about the groups, that is going just from a natural cycle already into a slower time. So the difference after opening, I strongly believe that the beach with the leisure business will bounce a bit quicker back than actually the city of Miami. It's also, in addition, we know that the tolerance from people, looking especially at the model of September 11th, a couple of years back, the tolerance of traveling of people will be very different, and the threshold, several different statistics indicate the threshold will be kind of a 3-hour travel. So therefore, a driver's market will be very important. A staycation part will be much more. I think we see much more a compression there than any other segmentations.
And sort of shifting a little bit to the east, you have properties in the Bahamas.
Yes.
And what does it look like over in terms of progress in the Bahamas?
Yeah, the Bahamas is. The Bahamas is an interesting market. For us, the SLS in Bahamar is our segmentation very heavily dependent on US and or actually Europe. So from an ordinance perspective, so the authorities actually, the Bahamas indicates that it will open in July. So it seems actually a few weeks later than we think it's going to happen here in the US. So they're going to be, first of all, they're going to be a little bit delayed on that. Second, the US market is heavily important for them. So it could play into their favor with taking the 3-hour traveling threshold that people could travel from the US. But what is for sure is that the long traveling guests, so Europe, longer than 3 hours in a plane and or generally traveling, that will probably take some time with a relatively slow ramp up.
Then what outlets in your properties will be first to open?
Well, the first to be open, I mean, first of all, we're going to obviously follow the authorities, what they allow us to open. I believe that probably also, let's take the food and beverage and the rooms maybe for a second here, separate those two. As some of you know, SB, we are known as having a very recognized, heavy, strong food and beverage part of our business model. We plan to open all of them at the same time if authorities allow. We obviously follow them very strictly. I personally believe that the food and beverage will bounce stronger back. It will be a quicker recuperation. It will be a quicker ramp up. As we probably all can testify that we are all somewhat have the cabin fever, are getting a little bit tired of our either offices that we are somewhat in a silo or at home. So we are eager to go out. And so I see actually a great chance for food and beverage to recuperate a bit quicker. Of course, social distancing, maybe slimming out the table layout, that is a proper distance. We're talking about servers and staff that wear either a mask and or a face shield. At least in the face shield, we can see a smile and see the facial expressions as well. But I see a good opportunity there to bounce relatively quickly back. And after all, it becomes also a price aspect. Maybe the family, the circle of friends that want to celebrate that they got through that difficult time is maybe a bit more inclined to go for a dinner and celebrate that than maybe travel an expensive long travel or vacation even so forth. So I think food and beverage will bounce a bit quicker back.
Lou, will you see Lowe's doing anything, doing a similar similar opening, or will you stagger?
Yes, Nancy, I believe you said we have about 300 plus attendees to this webinar. So I think it's important that they should know that South Beach Mayor Dan Gelber and Miami-Dade Mayor Carlos Jimenez, I feel they did a fantastic job. Their approach has been very inclusive and scientifically backed, and they have been in constant communication with businesses. I feel that everybody should know that some places are handling this better than others, and I feel both mayors are doing a fantastic job. So going back to your question, I agree with Simon for the most part. I'm not sure about the bars. What we are hearing right now is that in food and beverage, the grab and go outlets are going to be pretty popular because it doesn't give you a lot of opportunities to congregate, and it doesn't create a lot of high touch areas. So you get served behind the counter, and it seems like it's going to be pretty popular among our guests. I would say the buffets are going to be not available for the foreseeable future for the same reasons that I mentioned. They create environments where people get too close to each other, and you create highly touched surfaces. But I believe in terms of food and beverage, many of our hotels, depending on the occupancy levels, they might open certain outlet venues, but they might not open all of them. At the end, there's no magic bullet. When we open back up, we're not going to go back to the 90% occupancy levels as much as we would like to. It's going to be a gradual ramp up. And because of that, the hotels and businesses need to take financial decisions. And that could involve opening their hotels and restaurants in phases. In our case, I'm pretty confident right now as it stands today, we are not going to open all of our restaurants. We are looking at a forecast. Based on that forecast, some of our outlet venues get triggered. I'll make some numbers up. If you reach 30%, you'll open your second outlet, third outlet, so on and so forth. So that's the food and beverage world as far as the Lowe's Miami Beach is preparing for it.
Thank you. So now let's turn here to Suzanne, and let's talk about HR, okay, which is the backside of all of this conversation. And now, what is the status of your employees? How are you keeping them informed?
So the status for our employees, which is the majority of our hospitality workers, is that 95% of them are furloughed. We're very fortunate that we have owners that kept them on with and kept them whole with insurance. So they are at home, staying at home and keeping in constant contact. To Lou's point, I feel that South Florida is very nimble to some of these reactions because we had systems in place such as phone trees. So we have real-time status on everybody through an app that we use that sends out text and emails their team members and calls them at home. And so we can do that within seconds. Our HRIS system serves communication. Like today, we're going to send out a letter from Mutlu, a message from Mutlu, and they'll see it in all 3 languages. And then they've got my phone number. All 800 team members have my phone number. They have my cell phone. They have my, so it, and that I'm not unique. I talk to all a good amount of HR directors in the city, and they've all done that. They've all made themselves incredibly available. And that's it. It's a people business and we're in constant contact. Unfortunately, our team members are doing good. They're in good spirits and ready to come back. The concern is obviously that they don't all come back immediately. And we'll work through that as that happens.
So do you have a process laid out to begin welcoming your employees back?
So it's still being formed and normed, but yes, we will bring them back. Much like we've always brought them back during hurricanes, renovations, where we'll do a welcome to back work day at the dock and have some warm wishes there. And then we'll transition to departmental meeting immediately to bring them back to the new world, which is what is our sanitation guidelines by position? What does our job look like a little bit differently now that you've heard from Pred and you've heard from Simon and Mutlu that the leading thing now is how are we keeping the hotel safe from in a sanitary perspective. And it's not to say that we didn't all have these things in place to begin with because we were dealing with other with other viruses that were out there, but there is now a heightened awareness. And so it's going through that immediate training to get them ready to do the job.
And with that retraining, okay, what kind of guidelines, or have you created some perceived guidelines for training to greet the guest without a handshake?
Right. So it's an excellent question, and I was actually on the phone today with our Vice President of Education and Development, and that's the kind of stuff that we're talking through. What are the kind of hand gestures, eye gestures when we can't have a face shield, when we are using a mask? That all that kind of stuff really needs to be very thoughtful so that we are able to convey emotion when they can't see our smile. So it's still a work in progress, but it's certainly something that we are working through in terms of how we put that training together.
I think that that's a very important point. It's about communication, because going forward, this new normal is about change in behaviors and change in expectations. And that's across the board. So that's going to be with the guest and the employees. So that's a big part of the whole cleanliness and the top line priorities are the priorities. But we have to, and we've been talking about this as a group, about how do you communicate that ahead of time and continue to communicate, because you won't be able to shake hands. It may be that it's, this is how you greet, or it may be, other ways. But the only way that we're going to get the employees to buy into this and guests to accept that this is the change is to constantly communicate that to them. So when they arrive, when they're booking, their expectations are met and they don't come in disappointed. They understand, and employees understand, and guests understand why the employees do X and Y. I think that's very important. Thank you, Susanna.
So for example, okay, if your guest is coming up to the front desk and someone's wearing a mask, that's not a very welcoming look. Will we be putting up shields on the front desk to help to facilitate that, so that our front desk workers can actually gesture to the guest without having to put either the guest or themselves in jeopardy? Would that be part of your plan?
I'm going to punt that to Mutlu, because yes, that is part of the plan. I'm sitting on a call tomorrow to understand how that's going to look in the heart of the house areas. but Mulu probably has a better handle on what Lowe's is going to do from the front of the house. But yes, we are looking at plexiglass in certain areas. And tomorrow I'll have a better understanding as to what we're going to do in the heart of the house, where we have to rethink how we operate there too.
And
Oh,
yes,
that's great.
Susie, you're correct. The Lowe's hotels will have a plexiglass in certain locations, strategically picked locations, and front desk is one of them.
And just to clarify for our viewers, the heart of the house
is where our heart of the house team members are culinarians, room attendants. We call them heart of the house. They are the heart of our operation, HR. And so, you know, one of those things comes to HR. We see people come from the street. Do we put a plexiglass in our reception area to do that? So there's many things we have to think about, like our traditional stand-up meeting in housekeeping. That's 100 ladies. There's not gonna, how do we do social distancing for that? So need to still work through, are we going to put some of our trainings on apps so that then they on iPads and they have iPhones that they work with? Are we gonna serve them messaging through that so that we can follow social distancing in these large departments?
Thank you so much. And Simone, did you want to speak in on this? I'm afraid you need to unmute.
Gonna do that. All right.
There we
Can you hear me? Okay, good. Yeah, a couple of things to be said. Very good points of Mutlu and Suzanne. But I think we truly have a great opportunity in the hotel industry to actually truly set the bar high and show our professionalism. And I would like for a second here to talk a little bit about training and certification. We have reached out at SB, we have already reached out to the health department to see if we can help to facilitate for our cleaning professionals, so the housekeeping personnel in particular, to create a training and as well as certification. The vision, in my opinion, should be that we have a very similar approach as we currently already do with the food handler certificate. For the audience that are maybe not familiar with food and beverage or food handler certificate, that is anybody that works with food, is it in a kitchen, is it serving the food, has to go through an annual training, take a test for them to understand the basics about temperature, food handling, cross-contamination, and so forth. And my vision is that we have a great opportunity here in the hotel industry to take a very similar approach for the housekeeping. So getting the housekeeping on an annual retraining, certification, and that ensures, it stimulates trust and confidence from the guests, I believe. And it also elevates our labor force in regards to their education and having a true better knowledge in regards to cleaning and not just being shiny and nice, but truly disinfected. And so at SB, we took a next step because we knew it takes a little bit of time to get that either statewide or nationwide organized training and certification. So we partnered up with the Global Biorisk Advisory Council. They actually created a very good training, which is available now for that focus in particular about bacterial and viral cross-contaminations. It is online available, multiple language available. So we at SB, we plan to, before we actually open, get all the cleaning professionals, so housekeeping department, manager, line employees, everybody through that training, get them, they have to take a test, a quiz, and they have to reach a certain threshold to be actually certified. So that is the first initial step, but in the long run, I see a potential where we can probably also make a differentiator from our industry, maybe to another industry.
From others. And let's bring our hotel engineer in here, Fred. As a hotel director of engineering, then a number of topics have been brought up. What is your biggest task and challenge about reopening, given all of these issues?
So as a professional, as a leader, as a friend, as a part of a community, all the points that Simone brought up, we have to push in the heart of the house, certifications and education. So we're all maybe awaiting for some kind of certification programs to come from local or even federal authorities. But I think that we shouldn't wait for it. And as Simon and his properties are already working on, we should come up with clean property certifications as a hotel, as a group, and as a destination. Same like 10 or 20 years ago, we started working on similar initiatives for sustainability. Now we're in the same position to do something about clean property certifications. I think that either or both leisure and a group guests will be making their decisions. The priority that they're changing and shifting, and cleanliness and safety, I think is going to be right now at the top. And same like groups, Simone and you guys know, groups are in advance and some kind of forms for management to fill up about certain questions, and it will go to hotel managers, to engineers, to security professionals. Now I think there's going to be a lot of questions and items about safety and cleanliness, and they're going to be making their decisions based on that. So clean property certifications we need to start pushing for, and as a destination to tell the world, you know, Miami Beach is a leader. We did all of this. We care about your safety and communicate. That was brought up as well. Communicate that this is very important to us, that this is what we are working on, and you're welcome and safe to come to our properties.
On that same note, then, if we talk about transportation within the building or around the building, how are we going to deal with elevators and other escalators and other forms of moving people around?
Yeah. So, as Mutlu mentioned, we probably not going to start our businesses with 90, 100% occupancy. It's going to be most likely in 20, 30%. So that gives us a little bit of our allowance to figure out how to work with especially vertical transportation, elevators. And I was part of some conversations days before. How are we going to do that? Are we going to have a person to operate the elevator? Are we going to say one or two people per time per ride? So we have to learn and figure out how to do that. But there are going to be some changes, absolutely, especially in elevators. And I think it's a good idea to have a person running the elevators to start with.
Now, on that same idea, then, we have high traffic areas in hotels, and we have open space regulations. Where do you see us being able to manage those areas?
So to echo Mutlu, we're going to have to open outlets as we see the occupancy calls for. But we have to keep in mind the new guidelines and inside or outside. So it's going to be a lot easier outside to manage and set up the restaurants and tables. And inside, we are waiting for some kind of guidelines. Is going to be per square foot? Is it going to be a half of the occupancy? So we don't know that yet, but we're definitely working on getting ready to set up restaurants and outlets to adhere to social distancing.
Now, one last question about engineering, and that's about HVAC. Where do you see, how are you going to address the HVAC systems, both in the general areas and in the rooms?
So in our little world, that's a big and most important aspect of all of this air conditioning, because it provides the air circulation and air filtration throughout our property. which right now is very, very important. So we're already looking in all kinds of air conditioning filter replacement. And we're looking into, are we going to have some kind of new guidelines for filters? You know, are we going to have to be utilizing some kind of better filters for this occasion? So filtration and then all air conditioning has to be clean, coil cleaning. It's a big one. So unfortunately, we have right now opportunity to do that because we can turn off air conditioning right now. Guests are not going to be impacted to not only preventive maintenance, but all of these new measures to ensure air circulation, to ensure indoor air quality, which is going to be very important. And I'm sure that my colleagues around the world right now putting very high priority to that, air conditioning and air circulation.
Thank you. And now let's just go back to Heather for a minute, because we've talked now about a number of different issues. And from your viewpoint with the city of Miami Beach, how will the CDC guidelines impact staff service and service delivery and some of the issues that we've talked about this morning?
The CDC guidelines are really like our foundation, and I'm sure all the hotels and the brands will probably leverage those and add on to them. But they'll act as just the foundation, the basis, and that will give guidance as to how the hotels can ensure the comfort and, like I said earlier, manage the behaviors and the expectations of guests. So each hotel or brand will utilize the CDC guidelines to add things like, as Prit was saying, on the elevators, whether it's going to be 3 people in an elevator at one time. It may also mean, in terms of cleanliness, you know, whether valet is something that's rolled in. If we think that, you know, the early guests, returning guests will be local, maybe they'll be driving in, and so valet will be something that'll roll in. It may also have to do with how the hotels will deal with cleaning rooms. Maybe rooms are not turned over every day. Maybe they're turned over every other day or every 3 days so they can be cleaned and the guests will know that they're cleaned, or how linens are handled. It will, the CDC guidelines, as well as the hotels collectively, at least for Miami Beach, will try to develop standards that will make our guests and our employees, it's very important that the employees, the team members, are feeling safe and healthy, and they're confident that the hotel is clean and a great place to work, because they're the champions of the hotel. They emote what the hotel stands for. So to make sure that they understand all these things, because it's going to make changes to, as Simon said, about F&B. Whether, you know, hotels will look into doing, you know, utilizing innovation and technology to order food. Will we still have menus? How are you going to handle, you know, beachfront service? All of these things are going to come into play, and the CDC is the foundation, and we will use those to mold how Miami Beach, and this is what we do. This is Miami Beach. We mold things to make them better, because that's just who we are. We provide the best in service, and we will continue to do that. And we'll just do it, as all of the participants have said, in a fluid and staggered way, hoping that our guests and our employees understand that they have to be agile and flexible as we navigate through this.
Thank you. And picking up on something that you just said, Mulu, can I start with you for a moment? And let's talk about innovation. As we bring the conversation to a close, what are we going to, and we're the big innovators, we always have done, right? What do you see happening?
Look, although it's not a novel idea, I feel that we will see a rapid increase in businesses allowing for work from home. This has already started, but the hotels have been shying away from it because it's very much a people's business. Right? You have to be in front of your customers, you have to be shaking hands, and you have to show presence. But that's changing now. So we have a new world, and that's the topic of our webinar today. In this new world, I think we're going to see more hotels, more operations, allowing more people to work from home and only be present when they have to. So, you know, sales managers, for the most part, they're remote, but I think we'll see more lax rules in terms of them working from home, purchasing departments, call centers, some marketing positions, and some of our meetings, the budget meetings. Often, you know, we fly to the corporate office and we meet with our executive team in New York. I'm not sure if that's going to continue happening. We're probably going to do what we're doing now, and we're going to utilize Zoom, we're going to utilize Skype, we're going to utilize different software, and we're going to do them online, and we're going to do them from a distance. And this is going to continue until the consumer confidence is built, because that's really what our job is all about. We got to build that consumer confidence. They need to know that it's okay to go out, it's okay to fly, it's okay to stay in a hotel, it's okay to go dine in a restaurant. And in order for that to happen, we have a responsibility. Again, going back to my initial conversation, the two topics, social distancing and enhanced sanitation. If we do those right, and if everybody takes responsibility for their own actions, we will build that, we will restore that confidence.
So Fred and Simone, what do you see as innovations that we haven't covered already?
Simone?
Should I go first? Okay.
Okay.
Good. Well, I think there are different things that we see already some really good innovation, and some of them in the most simplistic way and some of them in a very complicated way. So let's give a couple of examples. Maybe start off with the simple ones. Innovation is, with my team together, we talked about, so how does the mini bar look like in our hotel, for example? Yes, we know usually there are some mini bottles of liquor, there's maybe some little snacks, some chocolates and all that stuff. And so we talked about, and we actually will move forward with that. It becomes much more of an R&R bar where the PPE will be provided. So hand sanitizer, I think, is important that it's included in a mini bar. We're talking about different things in a similar fashion as in the old days. Let's use that word for a second here. When you went to a beach vacation, you bring your sunglasses with, but sometimes you forget the sunglasses. So it will be maybe a similar approach in regards to with the mini bar, where we say we have your PPE available in our mini bar, from hand sanitizer to disinfection spray to the mask and maybe even a face shield. So I think that's kind of a most simplistic approach of innovation, but that's shifting a little bit in one of our revenue centers, the mini bar, R&R bar. If I go a little bit more in a more complicated thing, I mean, there's a lot of new developments in regards to UVD robots. So with UV lights in regards to against the bacterial and viral infection that are roaming randomly through the public areas and or the rooms. That would have to be determined how those robots are dressed up maybe or so, but that is much more on a just to take a little bit of, after all, we are in a business to make memories, and although the times are tough, but once we're out, we may want to have a little bit of a humoristic, in the most sensitive way, approach to that. So UVD robots is definitely one of the innovations that come out of the cleaning, and in particular hospital industry, cleaning industry. And then maybe an additional part where innovation was triggered, that's in particular for us at the SBE, we created, that was right before the crisis started, we created the C3 brand, which is based on brand and concepts that are particularly designed for food delivery. And so that is definitely not a new innovation, but where we try to take an approach, first of all, to bring our employees, our team members back and be able to give them hours, is basically using ghost kitchens. So ghost kitchen, we have currently a hotel or hotels that are closed. We have a full-fledged kitchen there. And so the C3 brands are for food delivery. And so basically that we use our current empty kitchens as ghost kitchens for those delivery brands. And hopefully we're working very hard and diligently to get it up and running within the next couple of weeks. Brands such as Crispy Rice and Sam's Crispy Chicken and so forth. So using our kitchens that are currently empty, giving the employees hours and hopefully as well, therefore a paycheck, and shifting our business. So that's kind of a 3-tier level that I see some development in regards to innovation.
Thank you. And Pred, from an engineering perspective?
Come up with the new ways of dealing with things. You know, unfortunately, there's a lot of technology there already. And I've been always trying to get IT and security and marry these departments and execute projects like check-in without going to front desk, right? Utilizing our cell phones. So that technology is already out there. So maybe putting plexiglass in front of the front desk agents works, you know, but what about, or at least for now, eliminating front desk where the guest receives reservations on a cell phone and uses that as automatic check-in, as opening his guest rooms, which automatically turns the room into occupied status and everything that goes along with that. So there's a lot of technology out there that's already there that would help us with minimizing contact, human to human, direct contact, or human to hard surfaces. So, and it marries with the energy management and everything else that we were trying to do for years. So I think it's time to start working on that, and it can be done, and it's safe, and also will provide some energy management, which all you know how I feel about that.
Thank you. Thank you. So now let's get to some of the questions and answer some questions. And Wendy, do you want to take over from here?
Yes, happy to. And by the way, sorry I lost you all. Lulu, you're very right on the technology has to be ready when you open, because I lost you for 7 minutes. So God, I felt so helpless. So yes, thank you all. Great conversation. I've got a few questions that I'd like to share with you. Let me see now. I think I have, for Susanna, what platform app? I know there's some apps that are you using to communicate with employees?
We use a couple of ones. One is an app called Send Word Now. We got it actually through the NFL, and that's the application that allows us to do the text and then phone call and email all at the same time. So we use that. We have another application called Jostle. Some other companies have Yammer, and that one allows our team members to look at what's happening in the company. We're able to post pictures. It's kind of like a internal LinkedIn. And then we use Workday for our HRIS system, and that also has allowed for some two-way communication. So we're using all three. However, our managers left with phone trees, passionate about keeping in touch with their team members. So our managers are doing wellness checks and just keeping in touch with their team members, because these are not the times to not lose that communication.
Exactly. And then I have another one for you, Susanna. I know your larger work groups, particularly housekeeping, and those folks that are not technology savvy necessarily, what are the plans to make them feel more comfortable?
So for years now, we've been doing a couple of things through technology that's made them feel comfortable. So take our largest workforce, housekeeping, they have to use an iPhone to punch their room, Rex. And that has helped a lot of that, getting them more acclimated. I think I have, out of our 800 team members and those that have barriers, I have 8 right now that are really struggling to get it through. and we're just calling them and doing it for them. But pretty much the rest of them have gotten used to it through Workday and through surveys and through Rex and all those applications. So if I had to worry myself about any group right now, it's stewarding, where I have the bulk of the cluster of the team members that are struggling to communicate. But I have colleagues that speak Creole that are helping me out. And so that's how we're getting it done.
That's great. And then on for Simone and Mutlu and Pred, will you be implementing new guidelines for vendor visits other than safe social distancing? And you may have spoken about this while I lost you. So
Yeah, I can go first. We actually have a process in place already. So all vendors coming through the back of the house, we actually take their temperature and we are asking them to wear a mask. So we have some masks available. If they come in and they absolutely have to do some necessary work, we actually provide masks, but we are not allowing them to come in unless they are wearing a mask and we're taking their temperatures.
and Simone?
Yeah, it's actually pretty similar to Mutlu. The temperature is just for the I don't know exactly the motivation of the question, but there are different ways to take the temperature. Obviously, it's the temperature gun is probably the most easiest, although I have to say it was quite difficult to purchase them. There was quite a big demand, but there's an alternative for as well. There are stripes, one-way use stripes that you can put on the forehead, and with color coding, it actually indicates what the temperature is of the individual. So just as a kind of a, hopefully helps the person that asked the question, if you don't get your hands on enough of those temperature guns, then that stripe are very inexpensive and actually quite effective and helpful.
That's great. Thank you. So this is for everyone. Oh, actually, Heather, I have one for you. I don't know if there's been any discussion about this, but has there been any talk with the city to implement an additional testing site, like perhaps for the employees? I don't know if that's, and for Mutlu and Simone, and I don't know if that's is that a discussion taking place? It sounds like you're all going to be testing, checking the temperatures of your employees. So the hotels are doing that, but I think they're asking if the city of Miami Beach is going to think about or consider setting up another a site to test the employees.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, it may be being discussed that I'm just not aware of, but I think it's a great question for any employees. Anyone who is looking to be tested now, the city of Miami Beach has a testing site on 46th Street in Collins. It's a mobile testing site, so you have to have a car to drive up to it. And then in Miami-Dade, if they're living in throughout Miami-Dade, there are a number of testing sites that people can go to, and government testing sites that are free. I believe you just have to make an appointment, and even the appointments are day of. So if anyone's concerned, it's on the Miami Beach website, as well as the Miami-Dade County and the city of Miami. If you're interested, but yes, but great question, and I'll look into that.
Yeah. And then I don't know if you discussed testing the guests. I know we're talking about testing the employees, but there's a question about will you be taking the temperature of the guests?
Clearly, nobody wants to go first, but I'll go first. We are not there yet. It's definitely that conversation is in the mix, but we are not there yet because we are not in the business of taking guest temperatures. And I know these are changing and trying times, and we need to pivot and change accordingly. We are not there yet. We have been talking about it. We are also consulting with our risk management team in the corporate office because this needs to be done correctly. It certainly is on the table. It certainly is in the conversations. However, as the Lowe's brand, as of today, 4:23, 12 p.m., we are not there yet. And as far as the earlier question, we know that some cities actually have thermal cameras at the airports and cruise lines and so on and so forth. I know that doesn't capture everything. You still have individual arrivals by car, but a lot of cities have put some things in place. Looking forward to see what we will have in place in Miami.
That's great. And there's actually a question that I feel comfortable answering about the CVB, who I know we have a lot of attendees from our CVB family. And I'm happy to just kind of answer this question. Have we reached other visitor bureaus or hotel associations abroad? And for hotel associations, for me, just to answer my part, I'm in touch with San Francisco, San Diego. They're good colleagues of ours, and definitely going through the same thing. We're actually talking about doing a Zoom together, which I think would be fun. And my colleague in San Diego is friends with a New Orleans Hotel Association president, so we're looking forward to doing that. But I know they were asking about the CVB being in touch with all of their abroad countries, and they have so many offices around the world, as you know. And Rolando Aiedo, the VP of Marketing, has been talking about they're definitely in touch with all of their colleagues. I mean, it's they've got a huge network abroad and in Asia. They even talked about, and one of the sessions that we'll be doing together will be touching on, really it'll be for the CVB to present all of their marketing. They have a great marketing plan. They have a great destination pledge. They have so many wonderful efforts and initiatives. And they also just unrolled a wonderful video that many of us saw already. That is really great. So stay tuned for that. And then someone else asked a question about Miami-Dade County Mayor Jimenez's task force. And we were, many of us were participating on the call yesterday. There is a hotel task force getting set up, restaurant, retail, museums, cultural organizations. It was a very good, productive call. And I think it's going to be great to be working together on the guidelines. And as I told you, we're working with FIU on our guidelines with all of our hotel, getting a lot of information from our brands, and working with you all as well. So, I mean, I think the conversation was amazing. And I know it's just been very tough, and you all look great. And I think every day we get a little better because we know we're gonna be opening up at least sometime soon. I don't know exactly when. And Heather, by the way, I did get some questions on when are we opening. We don't know. We have to go week by week right now. So I just we really appreciate you all, and Nancy, great job. And I think it's really a great beginning to a wonderful series and more education. And we'll share some of the other questions that are coming in now with you. And this is being recorded. And I just can't thank you enough. I know that a week from today, same time, we're going to be working on a boutique GM discussion, because I think that'll be very good. Other discussions as well. If anybody has anything they'd like to add or say, please feel free, but really appreciate this session.
Wendy, thank you. The only thing that I want to say at the end, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And working with all of you is great. But if there are any hotels that are on the Zoom that haven't received an email from me, I keep a list, so I'm updating them, all the hotels by email. If you have not received an email from me, please email me at heathershaw@miamibeachfl.gov so I can get you on my list, and you can be updated as new information comes about orders that is sent out to all the hotels. Or you can just call and look for me, and I will respond to you. As Wendy said, 24 hours a day I'm on. So thank you, and thank you, Wendy.
Anybody else want to share anything? Anybody? Fred?
To unmute. There you go. So I would also like to thank you for including me in this session. And I just want to let you know that you're all safe. I was taking your temperature measurements, so don't worry about it.
Be safe, everyone.
Everyone else, well, thank you all very much.
Bye.
Thank you, Nancy.
Bye.
Thank you, Wendy.
Bye. Thank you, guys. Bye.
We look forward to coming back and seeing you in business.
Good.
Are we out?
I still hear you.